Hello, everybody. Welcome to the TBA Legislative Update podcast. I'm here, Berkley Schwarz, with Brad Lampley, and we are here to give you our weekly update on all the legislation affecting, not maybe all the legislation, but the legislation affecting attorneys going through the General Assembly in Tennessee.
So we're not going to talk about all 2,500 bills that are currently before the General Assembly right now. We could.
We could. Yes. We're not even going to talk about the 400 bills that we worked on this week, but
the sun is shining. Everything's great. One of the best weeks of the year to be in Nashville. It's the SEC tournament. As we speak, I've got the beautiful big orange buses out the window right there of the Tennessee basketball team, which is staying at the Conrad. So it's go Big Orange. Oh, well, they're playing Vandy today, so I've got to pretend to be.
Gosh,
what anyway, and then I got my Just Means More pillow. So it's a cool week to be in. Let me. This is what came up last night, Berkley. And given your lineage, that you're a Mississippi State fan growing up and went to Ole Miss Law School, your opinion means more on this than anything. The Ole Miss uniforms last 2 nights, they've worn their powder blue. Okay. Powder blue versus navy blue. Which one do you prefer? Because there were some strong opinions on our row about this, and I'd like for you to weigh in.
It's funny you bring this up because my husband and I have talked about this a lot. So I grew up, and it was navy blue. There was no powder blue. That wasn't a thing. And I didn't even know it switched to powder blue until my husband ordered a sweatshirt for me that says "Welcome to the SIP." And it was powder blue.
Yeah.
And I was so confused. And anyway, we've had several conversations about this as well. And I'm team navy blue. But it is what it is. People, I don't even understand where the powder blue came from. I mean, I think it's always kind of that. I don't know, but like it's a little weird.
Well, it got so heated last night that I was sitting there with one of my law partners, and we texted the general manager of Ole Miss football, our friend Austin Thomas, Nashville native, BGA grad. And I said, all right, Austin, we need you to weigh in on this. Cause I said, to me, the navy blue and red is like the best. I just think it's one of the best uniforms in all the sports. I mean, whether it's football, basketball, whatever. And the powder blue, I'm not a fan. I won't tell you what I said last night about it. It wasn't profane or anything, but it was just very, very opinionated. But I was like, I just don't know. So anyway, there's your fashion debate of the morning. But,
did your friend text you back? What did he say?
So he likes the navy a lot, but he said our powder blue unis with their white, I guess it's real tree camouflage, kind of some fishing camo that they've got with their white helmets. He loves that. And he's right. That is a good looking uniform, but I'm navy blue. And of course, like, who am I? I mean, I'm just I'm UT, so I'm not even allowed to comment.
You don't get to weigh in.
I get an opinion. I'm not allowed to have an opinion on it. So that's okay. But that's why the SEC tournament is so much fun, because it's fun to go to the games where you don't really care who wins, and you can debate things like that.
That is so fun.
That's what we did. That's what we did last night. But today, the Vols and the Commodores. So we'll see how it goes. But we are burying the lead. I know a lot of people are probably listening thinking, okay, I haven't paid attention to the podcast that much this year, but I'm coming to Day on the Hill next week.
Exactly.
So, getting ready for that. So Berkley, I thought you and I should talk about, maybe as a lead in for people, if this is the first one you've tuned in on, what do we need to know to get ready for Day on the Hill? So I'll put you on the spot first.
Well, let's see. It is Wednesday, the 18th. It starts, we're going to kick it off around 10:30. You have to go through security, but it's not like the airport, I'm
kidding. It's not.
You don't have to take your shoes off. And then we'll all be meeting in Senate Room 2, which is on the first floor in the Cordell Hall building. Anyway, and it's great. Each person is assigned 3 meetings. And the way that works is, and by the way, today, Friday, is the last day to register. So we won't cut it off until end of the day. But if you do hear this and you want to come, go ahead and register. And even if you just want to come to the Big Shrimp reception, I think, some people only go to that you also need to register today for that. So, so there'll be a link in TBA today. But yeah, so we'll meet at then, and we have speakers in the morning. We run through everything. Every single person gets a schedule, and it'll say like, 12 meeting with, Representative Bolso, and then it'll say like 2, meeting with Senator Johnson. We try to pair you with people, your own legislators, and you get to go in with a group. It's a different group each meeting because everybody has different schedules. And then we also list all the committee meetings that are happening that Wednesday. So if you do have some
Which
downtime,
is what I'm checking as we speak to go over
right,
that. Yeah.
you get to, just go sit in on a committee meeting or talk to the other lawyers. We've got this whole hearing room that we can hang out in during the day in between meetings. And then we offer lunch from 12 to 2 at Holland and Knight. So I think it's a 6-minute walk from the Capitol. Grab your lunch, eat quickly, come back whenever you have a block of time. But
So on
it's
that,
great.
and I think that's helpful to point out to people, Berkley. Yeah, so you're thinking, okay, why have I got to leave the building and walk to go get lunch? Because the food options within Cordell Hall are pretty limited. There's a cafeteria, and a lot of times it's hit and miss. And that day, there will be, I think there's 4 or 5 different days on the Hill, so it is going to be a madhouse. And so there's not much place to sit in there, and you can't serve a meal and have people eat in the committee rooms. They don't allow that.
Right.
And so we're really, the best solution we came up with is we will offer a box lunch to people at Holland and Knight. They can leave the building and go get that if they'd like and come back. But within the building itself, there's just not a lot of options. So this is, we'll see how it works this year. And I'm sure you and I and Cherie Wright will talk about it extensively, and whether it worked or it didn't, and then we can go from there. But it's, yeah, and I think for those of you, Berkley, to your point, when you arrive, you go through security, everything kind of happens on the first floor, but you'll come in on the ground floor is the part off of Rosa Parks. So you'll come, probably most people will come in through that level of security. Then they'll go up to 1, and that's where all the conference and committee meetings rooms are. And the good thing about this legislature is it's all contained in one building. So all the committee hearings, all the legislative offices, the Senate is on office, the 7th floor. House is office 6, 5, and 4 on those floors. And so you'll be able to stay all within the same building as you want. If you like your meeting schedule, if you feel like you've gotten some great assignments, give all the credit to Berkley. If you hate it, then Ashley did the assignments. That's my story.
If you hate it, you can just stop by some other offices and see if you can grab those people. I mean, that's always the option too. And wear comfortable shoes. It doesn't have to be like tennis shoes, but you can wear for if you're, if you plan to wear high heels, just wear heels.
You'll get your steps in that day.
You're comfortable wearing. So yeah, it's going to be a great day. We'll give a few talking points, hand those out at the meeting, or we may even send them out Monday before, but it's nothing complicated. It's nothing that you should be like reading up on and figuring out now. I mean, basically, we're just going to advocate for the elimination of the professional privilege tax. We will thank the legislators for all, the indigent representation funding that we received last year and that the AOC is continuing to receive. And then it's really just a relationship building. I mean, we'll throw in a couple of other bills that we're about to talk about that we're still working on. But the whole point of it is for lawyers to meet their own, representatives and get to know them and build these relationships.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, this is a year where it's really more about relationships than anything else, and hopefully by now, you've maybe had several repeat attendees at this, to where people are becoming familiar more and developing a relationship with their state rep, state senator, or what have you, and vice versa. And so that's really what this year is about, as opposed to last year when it was all about indigent and trying to make sure we got that across the finish line. I think, realistically, I think it's a long shot, to be fair, about professional privilege tax this year, especially given some of the other budgetary priorities, and also it being an election year, also being year 8 for Governor Lee. So I think what it is a lot about is just continuing to plant those seeds about professional privilege tax, drive that point home. And then when the conditions are right and the stars are lined up, hopefully at that point we'll get that relief on professional privilege tax. But again, yeah, thanking you hate to come every single year and just be constantly asking. What you'd like to do too, which is the posture we're in this year, is thanking them for their leadership and everything that they've done on indigent, and then moving forward from there. And of course, we've got a few bills to talk about, which I suspect some will be of interest to some people, not interest to others. That's okay. But the other cool thing about it, Berkeley, is we will have, I guess at noon, assuming that the calendar for next week is the same as it was for this week, those that want to sit in on a Judiciary Committee meeting, House Judiciary Full Committee will be meeting just a few paces away from where we'll be.
That's right. Yes.
In our hearing room. And then that afternoon, and I'm teeing you up on this one, Berkeley, House Business and Utilities Sub, we will have week 2 of the split closing bill, which this week had several lawyers come to Cordell Hall to testify and advocate.
Absolutely, yes. So that is a bill that we've spent a lot of time on, and it's an issue we talked about it the last podcast, and we've discussed it before. It was something that came out last year and is still around this year, but it basically determines how it works with the buyer and the seller's attorneys, how they split the payment, who does the searches and closings and residential closings. And, there's legislation that would prohibit them from sharing the insurance premium. It's a big debate about whether that practice should be continued or whether it shouldn't, or whether it should be allowed. A lot of people just argue that let the lawyers decide on their own and do their own private negotiation. That's kind of where we've been. That's where we've been on the bill. And then others say, no, this is a bad practice and it should be stopped. So that bill, we had testimony on it this week, and then they'll actually consider the bill in the subcommittee next week. And I know it's not going to be before Senate Judiciary this week, but it will be next week. So yeah.
And it's one of those where you've got lawyers on both sides of it. You've got lawyers who feel strongly on both sides of it. On the advocate side of this bill, that they feel like that it is, to your point, a conflict of interest, that you should not be able to divide up the fees like that. But on the opponent side, which is the side I think that the TBA and real estate section is on by and large, that if you have a situation where the only way the seller is going to have representation in this process and at the closing is if they're able to get some of those title proceeds, right? And from the title premiums. And so if they don't, the seller is invariably going to say, you know what, this is the great example that I think our group was using earlier this week. I'm already out. I didn't get what I wanted from a house. I'm getting hammered on real estate commissions. And you're telling me now that I've got to go hire my own attorney that's got to work for me, that I'm going to have to pay out of pocket in addition to everything else. You know what? It's just the title. We're going to roll the dice, assume it's okay, and go from there. And I think the argument is that's where problems start. So as of right now, the practice in Middle Tennessee has been an agreement between the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney. This is how we're going to split it up. Gets paid at closing, and everything kind of works its way out through those policies. So that's the deal. It's a fascinating debate. Again, you can see, I'm always biased in our favor, but I always try to think about the other side's opinion, and much to your chagrin, I might add. And Berkley does get mad. I try to be fair and balanced, but Berkley gets mad at me sometimes about that. I'm winking.
I'm not mad. I just sometimes you're like, I see both sides. And
you have to think it's important. You have to consider both sides. Sorry,
we do.
Never mind.
We do. Fair and balanced. Proceed.
Fair and balanced. And so anyway, that's where we are. But it's a fascinating debate. So I encourage you. That'll be next week. I think it's at 3:30. Berkeley is what it was, or 3:00.
3:00
in the House Business and Utility Sub. So it'll be good to have a crowd in there. I don't know how much testimony, because I think there was a lot of testimony last week, obviously, and so they might be testimonied out. And then of course, being legislative season, things are constantly going back and forth between the sides. So it could be that they get it worked out. I think the House sponsor, who's our good friend, Andy Farmer, who's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, he seems to think that something will get worked out. So we'll see, because legislature likes compromises, as you and I both know.
That's right. And they met all the lawyers on both sides of it, and the insurance folks. Everybody met after the committee hearing, and just had a lot of really good, I think, productive discussion. So we'll see on that one. Another bill that we worked on, especially that you have been working on, is Senator Massey's bill. It was introduced last year, again, rolled over to this year, but in a way, it's trying to address splitting parents' time, joint custody, parenting time, and that's an issue that comes up every year for us. This was less of a 50-50. It wasn't really, nobody was necessarily pushing for 50-50, but there's always a little concern about changing that language in the factors or in the whole, custody provision under the law. And you were able to sort that out and work with everybody, and everybody's happy right now, Brad.
Well, I don't know that it's sort of like, you probably got a good resolution in a lawsuit if nobody walks away really that happy. But I will tell you, so the concern that we always hear, and we hear it every year, and it's usually for different groups, and sometimes it's from legislators. They'll know about personal issues where maybe the judge didn't give as much as one of the parents would have liked in terms of visitation time. And so we've had these debates over the years about 50-50. Senator Massey from Knoxville, a great friend of ours, she did not want to go 50-50, but what she was trying to do is hopefully get more meaningful frequency time and at least have the judges think through that. Now, I think most judges think that they do, but I think there's always a feeling to put more things in the code. And so the way it wound up, and I've got to give the, our real estate, oh my gosh, still have a real estate, our family law section credit for really helping come up with a lot of the language. But here's where it wound up. And this is, by the way, buried, I will say buried, and that's intentional, on like the 17th. This is going to be item 17 of the list of the factors for courts to consider when awarding parenting time. But this says, and this is the language that will be new into the code, without creating any presumption as to parenting time. So that's key. We got to say we're not creating any presumption. So in other words, we're not trying to say 50-50 or make that the default. The extent to which the parenting schedule proposed or ordered provides each parent with meaningful opportunities to participate in the child's life, consistent with the child's best interest. And of course, I think all the family lawyers love the notion that our North Star, the guide point for all of us, is child's best interest. So we don't want anything that's going to chisel away at that. And so we made sure to add in there consistent with the child's best interest. And that's going in 17 of that particular relevant code provision, which I don't have in front of me. I should have it up. But then you think,
I mean, I'm impressed you have the language right.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at a text. I wish I could tell you. I really had it
off the top of your head.
Yeah. I'm not. This is but anyway. But I will say, so there was one other add to right there at the very preamble to all the considerations, and again, just to drive home the point about how important it is that the child's best interest is the key. So this is a new sentence: the court shall consider all relevant factors, with the best interest of the child always being paramount. So, and again, that's now the lead in. So that's new, just to let everybody know. And I think the judges understand it and they get it, but it's helpful. So I think we ended up at a great place. I think if you ask a lot of the family lawyers, they'd say, well, look, there was nothing broke with what it was before, so why add to it? But sometimes you have to compromise, and I think that's where we wound up, and confident that we wound up in a pretty good spot on that one. So thanks to the family law section for all their help.
Yes, thank you. And they have spent a lot of time up here and working on language and back and forth. So, and I know K.O. Hurston and George Spano specifically have been super responsive, been quick to get back to us. And George and I worked on two bills that Representative Alexander introduced that we were concerned about, and she was so reasonable and helpful to try to get us to narrow it down, because nobody wants those unintended consequences, which we talk about a lot when legislation is passed. So
George has been great, and that's a tough, the volunteers that help lead these sections and the executive committees of the sections and so forth. It's hard because you know how it is when it's like a family, right? You've got a lot of different opinions around that room, and everybody is an expert. Everybody practices in this area. So, but you might come out and you might have 5 different opinions, and you can understand where all of them are coming from, Berkley. You can see all sides.
You can see all sides.
You have to pick one, and then it becomes difficult. So somebody's going to get mad, but I think again, appreciate the sections, because this time of year you're getting amendments from our interns, nonstop. And it's like, hey, this bill is up tomorrow, but the amendment just got filed. So
Yes.
anyway, we appreciate those that have given some grace under the timing of the circumstances. And I know others probably are new to the process and go, why am I just now getting this? And I've got to drop everything. But that's just welcome to the legislature.
Gosh, yeah, we wish it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So another bill we're still working on is the extrajudicial adoptions, and basically the adoption project. They want to provide for adoptions where a judge doesn't have to be present in specific, very limited circumstances where a mother doesn't want to go to court. There's a flight risk. And, we want to make sure that in those limited situations, the adoption can go forward. So making sure that that language is right, making sure that she still has the option to change her mind, all of, and it's tricky when there's no judge present too, because not only does it keep all the parties from having that formal situation, where the judge is advising everybody of their rights, but also it can be overturned easier, when a judge isn't there. So I think that's the concern of a lot of our adoption attorneys. However, they recognize that in certain situations, this could be, needs to be used. So we're still working on that language right now through our adoption section, and we'll see. But, every single bill that is moving I think it's already been put on notice because they've all announced their final calendars. Everything needs to start rolling. So it just makes me laugh because everybody's like, are you busy? And I'm like, yeah, every bill I'm working on is up, right now, all of them.
Going on all of them.
Yeah. So it's a lot. And, and it's great. I mean, we work with the business law folks on things they care about. We're working with construction, real estate, family law. I mean, we could go across creditors, it's like, so probate, and our bills, TBA's bills, are making their way through, and I got a question from a judge yesterday about our probate bill, but they're all good, but, just checking to make sure some things. So it's a lot, but we're at the high top, before where things are the craziest, and it's part of it. But it's also actually exciting because I think sometimes when you're building up to that, you feel like it's hard to feel like you have a grasp on all the bills and all the knowledge. And then you get to that high point of the curve and you're like, okay, all of this is being worked out, and then things start getting worked out, and it's so satisfying and makes you feel like you're, all this time was well spent and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
To your point, I've got a list of bills on here that I was tracking, working, all that stuff last week, and there's a couple of them killed, drawing a line. It's like, oh, there's nothing better than a big X through a bill that you've been worried about. That one's dead. And of course, as you and I say about 3 or 4 times a day, on to the next crisis. I mean, you don't have time to celebrate or enjoy anything because it's on to the next crisis. And then, of course, once Day on the Hill is passed, Big Shrimp is over, everybody's had a good time at that. Then at that point, it's like the following week looks like, to me, it could be a little bit easier. And then as we get into April, there's always budgetary things that you're looking at and so forth. But outside of a few great big issues, it's like, okay, this is more manageable. So we'll see. I always say that, and something blows up. Like this time last week, I thought everything was great with one particular client, and then I got a call from the client at 2:00 in the afternoon on Friday going, oh no, you're not going to believe what just dropped. That, and it's like, okay, here we go. And then you're in scramble mode, and you're, all hands on deck. So I'm sure something bad will happen this afternoon.
Yeah, well, let's think positively, but I'm with you. I feel like in 12 hours for one of my clients, everything that we had gotten, we were like, we're on the road, and then everything reversed itself. So it can happen quickly, good or bad. So, well, I think that we'll leave it at that. And we will be back next week. Hopefully next week you can do your special on the Hill reporting from, Day on the Hill with some folks.
Yeah. We did that. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
That would require, I think, too much work for Hank. Maybe we don't do that this year.
I don't know. We'll see, or not, or we'll just give an update of how it went.
Maybe,
Either way.
maybe, but you know what? You're right though. Yeah, we could do. We had the mics last week and did it, and introduced. Well, we interviewed Cherie and so forth. So
And
yeah,
Ed, yeah. So maybe we can get Heidi up there. We'll see.
maybe we
So,
can. We just
uh-huh.
connect all the presidents.
Yeah. So many exciting things to come. So
So many.
don't forget to register if you plan to come. Today's the last day. And
Yeah,
that-
we won't allow you in the building otherwise. If you haven't registered, you cannot walk in.
You know
we'll
what?
have you arrested. Berkley will have you thrown in a TBA jail if you.
you will not be arrested. You will be allowed in the building. However, you will not be scheduled to attend any meetings. So here you go.
No, they're going to be arrested. I think
that-
it's
'cause
in the
that-
policy.
That's what's happening this weekend, but you could probably just join some friends and attend their meetings. So, just saying that could happen too. But okay, well, thank you all for listening as usual. And we will be back next week, next Friday, to talk about all these things again and give you the update. But have a good week and we'll see you then.
See you next week.
Bye.